Welcome back. School Shootings in America is an upcoming exhibition curated by the BDC, which is meant to highlight the facts around America's firearms and profile some of the thousands of young people and families who have been affected by school shootings since the Columbine massacre in 1999. Joining me virtually is a co-curator, Cynthia Rivera, along with photojournalist Tamir Kalifa. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Now, Cynthia, can you start by telling us a little bit more about School Shootings in America, the exhibition, and what inspired the Bronx Documentary Center to create it?
Yeah, so we've been wanting to put together an exhibition about gun violence for some years now to be able to create an open space, a safe space for our community to have conversations about loss and possible actions to move things forward in a more positive way. And we knew gun violence as a whole in American history was such a large topic to cover. So school shootings was sort of a sub theme of that we chose. And shootings, of course, have been a recurring issue that seemed to be more and more like dumbfounding in the media, and also something that the general public seemed to be more and more numb to. And for us as an organization that want to like bring and amplify these stories and these like certain issues, it felt like really a really important topic for us to cover.
Now, why do you think it's important to use photography and storytelling to highlight the impact of school shootings?
So, because school shootings have unfortunately become such a common thing to hear about in news stories and almost just about every month, we feel like it's been really dwindled down to school names, the names of towns, and the numbers of people that have been affected. And what we feel like we really miss are the families that are affected every time. And that's hundreds of families, which is thousands of people, which becomes another number. But to see it in person in an exhibition, you get to see what those people go through on a daily basis and how they have to deal with their pain when you read their stories. And for us, that brings back the humanity that kind of gets lost in all of the numbers and statistics.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, Tamir, again, thank you for being here. Can you start by telling us how you came to work on this deeply emotional and powerful project?
Yeah, so I was assigned to document the immediate aftermath of the Uvalde shooting in Texas, where 19 children and two teachers were killed at their elementary school by an 18-year-old armed with an assault rifle. And what began as a breaking news story quickly evolved into something much deeper as I started getting to know families of the victims and members of the community. I'd covered gun violence previously and was determined since day one to create work that was sensitive and did not make viewers want to look away. Um, the work that's going to be on the show is uh, 2.5 years worth of time spent in Uvalde. The first year's worth of work was published in the New York Times, but um, all of this work really charts the wilderness of grief this community has faced to show the impact of gun violence from up close, and how these remarkable families have moved forward, not moved on, while honoring their loved ones.
Now, I want to touch on the fact that, I mentioned that Columbine happened in 1999, and since then there has been over 400 school shootings in our country. Can you just explain, how this exhibition can kind of encapsulate, that that's been going on in our country, especially when we see numbers as high as that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of information to contextualize and to put into one space. So I think technically speaking, we will have like a timeline that wraps around the entire room that goes through every single year and every shooting that's considered a school shooting, a mass shooting, just go throughout the entire room. And we also have a couple of different infographics that we've made to try and make some of the statistics that stood out to us the most a little bit easier to like understand and digest.
Now, I also want to touch on the fact that, the Washington Post created a report where they found that most of the people responsible for these shootings are also children or, very young people themselves. How does the exhibition address the role of gun access in these tragedies?
I think we address the issue by pointing directly to organizations that are have like actions and steps to move forward like every town. They've actually been a huge help on this exhibition, and we point to action steps that people can take in order to move in a direction that makes gun access more difficult and gun safety laws more common and possible.
Now, Tamir, your photos capture the raw emotion and humanity of these families. How do you approach documenting grief while respecting the subject's vulnerability? And I think this is so important, just as myself as a reporter and somebody who works in media, kind of understanding and learning how to deal with these really tough topics when we're dealing with the lives of real people is so important. So, can you explain how you approach something like that?
Well, I feel that part of taking the issue of gun violence or any major global issue seriously is by visualizing with care, compassion, and patience. Um, the reality is that grieving patterns don't align with deadline cycles, and so we have to be very mindful that the work that we do has a direct impact on the people that we are documenting. And so, you know, with my work, I've tried to um, be very intentional with how I approach documenting grief and documenting trauma, and I never want to compound the distress um, that someone is feeling. And so, um, I've been fortunate to work with newsrooms that are willing to be patient and allow for the stories to reveal themselves, and to which allows me to also meet some of these people where they are. But the reality is that most of the time I spend in a place like Uvalde, I'm not photographing. I'm having conversations. I'm listening. I'm sharing meals with people. We're laughing or crying. Um, I'm getting to know them as much as they're getting to know me, and that ultimately is in the service um, of the storytelling and of the journalism, because it allows for people to trust me more, to be vulnerable, and to allow me then to bear witness to what it is that they're experiencing as a result of a tragedy like the scale of what happened in Uvalde.
Now, despite the tragedy, your work also showcases moments of resilience, like Caitlin, a very young girl dancing to Taylor Swift songs with her friend at a graveyard. Can you just explain how you also balance pain with, you know, themes of hope or, showing people being very resilient?
People impacted by tragedies like this um, are not avatars or symbols of their grief and suffering the way that they are often depicted in the immediate aftermaths of tragedies like this. And um, one thing that the dimension of time offers us, and being able to build long form work on subjects like this, is a chance to see some of the nuances and the subtleties reveal themselves. Um, a place like Uvalde is an incredibly dynamic and complex place, and the journey through grief is not one that is just full of darkness. There is actually an immense amount of light, and I think that if you look close enough, you can see what people are really made of, and how humans have the extraordinary capacity to endure in the wake of tragedies like this. And photojournalism, I think, is uniquely qualified and uniquely capable of showing that and reflecting that. So something I've really tried to do in Uvalde is show um, that we can't we have to have the darkness in order to appreciate the light, and ultimately it's the combination of those two elements that can make this work, and documentation around it so impactful. And I think that an image like Caitlin dancing on Jackie Casades's grave represents that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, Cynthia, can you just tell us a little bit more about the exhibition in general? Where can people go, and when are the dates where people can actually interact with this?
Yeah, so the exhibition is opening this week on February 7th, and it will be up until March 8th. And um, we'll be in our 614 gallery space. We have two spaces, but this one's on Cortland and 151st Street.
Now, I have a question for the both of you. Um, what do you hope people take away from these photos and the stories they tell?
I can answer that, or at least I'll start. I really want people to walk away from an exhibit like this, not feeling despair, but feeling hope. Um, and because hope is the most powerful tool that we hold to shape our future. And when you see what these families have gone through, and yet they could still continue to move forward with extraordinary grace and determination, I think that that's something that can inspire all of us, and understand that this isn't just a look away issue, because it's so heavy. And by sharing work that is caring and compassionate, and I hope allows for the public to see themselves in these families, and to inspire their own empathy, to imagine themselves in a place like this, that can move them to be more interested in this subject, and to think about what it is that we can do in order to make this country and our classrooms safer.
And Cynthia, can you just explain what you hope people take away from interacting with this?
Yeah, I mean, I think very similarly to Tamir, it is about hope. And I think not just about school shootings, but gun violence issues in general. I hope that this exhibition serves as a reminder for all of the headlines and numbers that we do see, that there are actual lives that have been stopped short long before they had to be, and that there are steps that can be taken now to be proactive and not just reactive for when there's another issue of gun violence that happens.
Well, I want to say, just interacting with the both of you, I think this is very important because when we talk about social justice and raising awareness, art and photography can absolutely be used to kind of help people learn a little bit more about that. So I want to thank you both so much for letting us know. Can you quickly let people know where they can go to learn a little bit more about the Bronx Documentary Center and the other issues that you focus on?
Yes, actually, right now our website is under construction, but you can still visit us at bronxdoc.org, and you'll be able to see, and also on our Instagram handle, it's Bronx Documentary Center. You'll be able to see all of our upcoming events and the events that are in conjunction with this actual exhibition.
All right. I want to thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
To learn more, please follow the BDC on Instagram at Bronx Documentary Center. Stay tuned, we have more for you right after this.